being 8:30, we can go ahead and we will do the Pledge of Allegiance followed by a moment of silence. So if you would please follow me on the pledge this morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Laura, we need roll call.
Mr. Bartlett,
Gary's absent today. He's in Florida.
Mr. Fowler,
Present.
Ms. Owens,
Here.
Ms. Pierce,
Here.
Mr. Steeman.
Here. Next item on the agenda deals with approval of the agenda, approval of minutes from December 15th and from January the 12th. I would suggest on the agenda, before we take a motion, that item 8A, 13, and 14, which are on the addendum, be included under new business. And when we deal with new business, item number 9, which is an executive session, that be a separate vote taken after the new business. That makes sense? Okay, so moved by Ms. Pierce, seconded by Mr. Fowler. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Bartlett's absent. Mr. Fowler,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Ms. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Steeman.
Yes. Next item is public participation, and as always, we welcome the public, but we'll continue to move forward. Next item is financial report. We need a motion, a second, then followed by discussion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fowler,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Pierce. Laura, anything you'd like to tell us, share, comment on about finances?
Everything's going well. We just sent out the third quarter classroom billing. As you can see, the balance dropped a little bit because we spend money and we bill it. And so it's just a back and forth. W-2s were mailed on Friday. So hopefully you've all received them. We don't know what the U.S. mail is like these days, of course. And 1099s will be mailed today. So we're finally, closing out our calendar year, thank God, and, moving into this one. But otherwise, I really don't have anything else to report. Everything was, besides all the calendar year end stuff, everything was status quo this month.
Any questions for Laura?
I just wanted to check. I presume, okay, like on the cash summary report, there were these big outstanding balances for, adaptive PE and speech and learning and OT and PT. And so is that, we're waiting on?
We're working with the districts on how they want us to be billing them. Marie and I are setting up a second meeting with them to discuss how they want costs allocated. So we have actually not billed for any what we call related services this school year yet. So that does include OT, PT, SLP, and did I say SLP? I'm missing something. APE. But we hope to have it resolved here in the next month or so and then start billing for those. So that's why those are negative.
Okay. So
Can I just add a note? Can I add a quick note? We do ongoing analysis of the data that we have regarding usage of consortium classrooms in the billing, and we're always looking at equity. So we have this pattern of, as we did with APE a few years ago, we have this pattern when we see outliers or discrepancies and questions are being asked for explanations as to why this is appearing on a quarterly bill. We do that analysis and we put the problem and the data on the table, and because it's a consortium, we then navigate the process of getting the superintendent to come to agreement in terms of how we're going to move forward. And we found that to be, even though it takes a little more time than us unilaterally making a decision on a correction in terms of how billing is being done, what it does is it enables them to share the solution and to own it so that as we move forward, it is their decision. So it takes a little more time. And right now there is disparity between the use of related services, if we were to bill for actual use versus doing it as just a simple equal spread on the number of kids who's behind they're sitting in a seat. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so Laura's doing that comparison right now. We had done it for 1 year to raise the initial conversation, and now Laura is doing a 3-year analysis from the 3 years that she's been here. To be honest, prior to 3 years ago, we didn't have data collected in a way under the past treasurer that would have enabled this depth of analysis. And so that's really, it's a cumbersome process, but I think it's a necessary one to ensure that we're transparent and they're understanding how and what they're paying for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and does the pandemic affect as far as different school districts being in person or not? Or
no, it didn't really, because we actually have honored every obligation we have in terms of the services to be provided to students, and so that hasn't changed. I mean, the IEP is a legal document, and if we're charged with serving that child, we are figuring out how to serve them. Is there anything to add, Laura?
That's it. That's good.
Any additional questions? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Bartlett's absent, sorry. Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
yes.
Ms. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Stammer?
Yes. Next item is new business, and as a reminder, we included item 8A, which is an update addition on substitute lists, teacher lists, and items 13 and 14, which one deals with contracts, 13 and 14 and resignation. I need a motion and a second on new items, new business. So moved. So moved by Ms. Pierce. I'll second it. Marie, any discussion?
I just want to make a couple of comments, and I did mention in the board memo the shift for Michelle McClelland, and if you recall, this is a person who was moved from she started as a transportation aide for us at the request of a district to a classroom about 3 years ago, and then mid-year last year was moved to central office. We are now making the official shift of her out of teaching assistant position into a receptionist position. This is a newly created position, and you were provided with the job description, and it is, she does a nice job of greeting people coming in the door, and there's a scope of work that she will be responsible for that complements what Courtney does in terms of assisting me and, making sure that the central office runs smoothly. But, we did not feel that, we were comfortable moving her back into a teaching assistant position for a number of reasons. James, Dr. Freeman has sat down with her and walked through that process, so this was made known to her before this action was put before you, on the board agenda. So I wanted to make that note. And then the other is regarding, Ms. Crandall. Ms. Crandall actually lives up in the Westerville area, and had been commuting down here for her position. Mid-fall, she had come to us saying that she had a job offer up closer to home and asked if she could resign. And we said to her, we will allow you to walk away from your contract if and when we can find an adequate replacement. So that has taken place, and we are now accepting her resignation and allowing her to move on. So we greatly appreciate that she was willing to stick with us, and honored her contract until we were able to find somebody, which was not easy during COVID. So, that is why she's being allowed to resign at this point in time. Is there a question? Did I hear somebody?
Any questions on any of the new business items? All right, roll call, please, Laura.
Mr. Bartlett is absent. Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Ms. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Steeman?
Yeah. The next item on our agenda is an executive session to discuss employment of a public employee in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code 121.22. I need a motion and a second, and then a roll call.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fowler.
Second.
Oh, seconded by Charlotte
Good.
Owens.
I know, I shouldn't
Any-
let Mary carry the load the whole time.
Thank you, Charlotte.
All right. Roll call, please. I don't hear any discussion, so go ahead.
Mr. Bartlett's absent. Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Ms. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Steeman?
Yes.
What time are you noting?
8:40 a.m.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
You want to do Laura first, or you're doing Laura at the next meeting?
Yeah, we're doing Laura's next meeting. Could, we always step out just for a few minutes? And we'll go to the, oh, don't go too far.
Going home?
Yeah, don't go too far.
Nowadays, it doesn't matter where you go, you're still.
Yeah. Thank you, Marie. The reason I asked, and Laura, you can shut off if you want. That's up to you.
Doesn't James put you into a breakout room for this?
No, he hasn't. Well, on the computer?
Yeah, so that, because this is
Yeah.
why,
Yeah, we
I
should
want
have
to-
him do that. Hang on. Well, thank you, Ron. Yeah, I thank you, Laura, for reminding us.
He can't get through that door, though.
I think Marie's still out
Oh,
there.
she's still out there.
What I wanted to do was discuss
That
a
salary.
role in her contract and salary.
Yeah, 'cause she gave me that salary schedule thing too. She sent it to me.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, we're not doing her any favors right now.
No, she's been behind on pay ever
Yeah,
since.
well, ever since you came.
I used to deal with her pay.
Yeah, that's right. You would have at the other place.
I guess he's working on it remotely.
Oh, okay. We just wanted to make sure we were okay to
Here's
go
how we're
to
doing it.
executive session.
Yeah. You guys are going in the breakout room,
Yeah,
and then as soon as you guys are done, somebody just get me and I'll pop you guys back in. I'll have to pop back out of the room. I just wanted to make sure it's okay, so let me join here.
And currently on our feed, there's just a sign.
Yeah, there's no feed, there'll be a sign.
You there, Charlotte?
Yes,
Good, yes.
Okay, we hear you, we just don't see you yet, but we're working on it.
could you see me before?
Yeah.
Sure could.
Okay,
I did,
Are you done?
I did. She's there. That's weird.
Battery is very low.
That's even more weird because it's plugged in. Okay.
That's interesting because it is plugged in.
how are you doing, Laura?
Okay. Tired. It's really hard to be in a seated position, so this is really uncomfortable, but I decided not to do this meeting from my bed, so.
We appreciate that. We had that conversation with teachers when we started doing Zoom. Please find a place for your
So
Please walk
Find a place other than
all
your
in your
bed.
bed.
Yeah.
surgery was Friday,
You said it.
last week.
Underwear, but
This past Friday.
don't-
How long they think recuperation will take? Several weeks or?
They listed 6 weeks on my FMLA forms, but I'm thinking like maybe another week. I mean, I feel really good except for like my stamina. You know what I mean? Like I don't last very long. Like before I just need to lay back down. And
Well,
sitting
and-
here like this morning has been hurting pretty bad.
Yeah, so that needs some recovery time, just so you're not having to sit all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. All right, we are back in session. And Charlotte, we can see you, and Laura, we can see you. So we're good. I'm gonna make a motion and then we'll see where that goes, but, coming out of executive session, we have a completed evaluation of our superintendent for, 2021. And dealing with compensation and contract, first, I'd make the motion that we advance, Marie's contract, that it be rolled up by 5 years, which would be effective August 1 of 22 through July 31 of 27. In addition, that her salary be set at effective August 1 of 21 at $145,900,000. And also that effective August 1 of 21, the Medicare payment that has been picked up by the board be moved over to salary. Do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Pierce. Any comment, question? Oh, I would add one other thing, that any additional compensation to all staff for the 21-22 school year would not be a part of the compensation for the superintendent. It would only be what the set salary is, plus the other additions. So I need to modify that, Mary.
Okay.
You're okay? Any comments, questions, follow-up?
Okay, I know we are in 2021, but this was the evaluation, would we say it's for 2021 or would we say it's for 2020 just because we didn't get it done in December? And we're probably gonna be,
It could be either. I just used the current date, that's
Okay.
all.
because we're probably looking at trying to do it in December again in case we have new board members coming on in January.
That's true. That's true. I don't think it matters, 2021 school year, 2020, whatever you want to use. The key is we did the annual evaluation.
As long as it says that, I think you're okay.
Yeah,
But it's for 2020, because we'll
Yeah.
probably be in 2021 again.
right. That's why we said this annual evaluation.
Okay.
Okay. Any discussion on the contract adjustments going forward? I think I stated them correctly and clear. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Bartlett's absent. Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Miss Owens?
Yes.
Miss Pierce?
Yeah.
Mr. Stamen?
Yes. Okay. The next item on the agenda is, reports. And Marie, you're first.
Okay, so let me begin with, Board Member Appreciation Month, which is January. And we have our big poster up with our thank you here. And I do have certificates to present to each of you. And appreciation, I can't shake your hand, but I want to do your certificate. Thank you very much for your service. Charlotte, here's yours. We'll get it
Okay.
out to you. Ms. Pierce, thank you very much. And Lou, thank you very much. We
Thank you.
are, I think Laura would agree that we are very fortunate to have the board that we have. And we do appreciate you tremendously. So thank you. Thank you, thank you. It's a weird year. We can't do some of the events that we would have at the regional dinners at the Villa Milano and whatnot. I wonder how the Villa Milano is doing these days.
Probably not very well.
They might have a backlog on those desserts by now.
Yeah, gigantic, pieces of lasagna as big as your head. So that's the most important item. I want to sincerely thank you all for your service. Thank you, Charlotte, out there, and Gary, wherever you might be on the road. I do want to give a quick update. We had made the mention of a blessing box and getting that installed. I don't know if you noticed it coming in the door.
Yeah.
A friend of mine volunteered to build that for us. I just paid him for some materials and he delivered it, and Adam installed it. Courtney is the one who was brilliant enough to figure out where we should probably locate it. It was already a cement pad, so that worked out well. Regarding the vaccine, so this last week, ESC superintendents were tasked by the governor's office to ascertain from every district whether they had a partner for vaccine distribution, and if not, the state would be helping to line something up. We did work with all of our districts. Pickerington is struggling a little bit because though they were on my list in terms of the report to the governor's office, as I think I had alluded to earlier, they don't actually fall in the Fairfield County Health District. They fall in Franklin County. So we're trying to help them navigate that process. At the end of the day, we have sent out a survey to all employees asking whether or not they want to take the vaccine. I work with the EMA in the health department to craft this. They are going to provide the contact information. They provide what their age is, and there is a prioritization based on oldest to youngest in terms of who's going to have access to the vaccine as doses are available. We don't have clarity regarding when doses will arrive and to what extent they'll arrive. There's a second segment of employees that will then extend the invitation to, and that includes substitute teachers who have not regularly subbed. We're including the substitutes who have regularly subbed in with the teachers because we need them to stay open. and contract employees who do ancillary and important work but don't have face-to-face contact. I'd also like to extend an invitation to board members to get vaccines. And who knows with how we're getting access to them, whether or not some of you might be better off just going in with your age group versus with us.
I'll be happy to put me in because I'm gonna be looking in March.
Yeah,
when I come home.
so we will extend that to you as well. The way the process is set up is that this information goes into the EMA, and the health department has a portal in which they will communicate directly with the employee for them to schedule when they're going to take their vaccine. We will just get data on who did and who didn't. And we don't really want information beyond that because of challenges regarding confidentiality and FERPA. If employees have a question about whether they should take it or not, we are not medical professionals. We've given them the guidance from the state level, but they're encouraged to contact their personal physician or the health department to have those questions answered. So I feel as though we have worked through that process and we have a fairly good plan in place. In this county, the health department is primarily set up with a big pod at the fairgrounds. There are some other little minor pods that are going on in the county, but that would be the primary location for vaccine distribution. Any questions on that piece? No? Okay. The other I wanted to just touch base on is that we have tried to be very strong advocates at the state level to ensure that the funding is available to provide support in this county to serve students. One of the big pushes with this last round of ESSER funds is prioritization on looking at how do we close learning gaps and how we might provide additional supports for kids who are behind, whatever that means. We are currently having conversations with the districts as they process. They just received yesterday, I sent to them what their allocation is going to be from the state level. We're advocating for a direct payment from the Ohio Department of Education directly to ESCs. So we have a pot of money to help support, and we have offered to step up, partner with them, problem solve, and collaborate in helping them with extended school year support. The great thing about this funding is that they did actually listen to feedback where we said, please don't dump a bunch of money and say you have to spend it in 6 months. There's no thoughtful, meaningful way in which that impact can occur when money comes that way. And it looks like we're going to have until 2023 to spend the funds, which really allows for great opportunities to think about a 1.5 to 2 years of additional support to help students. So we're excited about that. We also are currently advocating at the state level for, with the attrition of students who are leaving public schools and going to a private school or to a community school, what happens is there's a change in what the ADM is for an ESC. We don't have this problem as much as other larger districts like Central Ohio, Cleveland, Toledo, Akron are having struggles with. But because the formula at the state level is set up so that there is a per pupil allocation of $26 per pupil, when that child leaves, there's not currently a mechanism for which that per pupil amount gets distributed back. Essentially what happens is it continues to sit at the state level and we lose it out of education funding and it goes back into the general fund. We are currently looking at or advocating for that pot of money to be protected for additional payments back out to ESCs to support work that they're doing. And so there is the plus of this whole COVID crisis that has put a spotlight on the value of ESCs at the state level, and we feel encouraged that that might be something that's achievable in this next year. Unless you're been around forever like me, people don't really understand the funding history of ESCs. They think it's always been $26 for people. When I started 22 years ago, we received $47 per pupil. So think about it, 22 years later, and the allocation from the state level has, forget keeping up with cost of living, has been reduced significantly. At the same time, we have closed that gap with other funding sources that we've been able to ascertain. The other item I wanted to update you on is that I will be serving on the executive committee representing this region for the next 2 years at the state level. I also serve on the critical issues committee. I was just selected to be back on that committee for another 2-year term. And I'll continue with the BASA ESC committee and the BASA Special Ed committee, which are all really important in terms of advocating for needs for our client districts and our ESC. So that's really all I have for you for this report. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay.
Is there anything else into that? Go ahead.
When you say the executive committee, is that for OESCA or who, or?
That's for OESCA.
Okay,
So out of the 52 ESC superintendents, the state's broken up into regions, and there's a person from each region that serves on that executive committee.
thank you.
Typically, it's your peers that either vote you in or nominate you or whatnot. I had just finished serving a 2-year term, and they nominated me again for another 2-year term.
Any other questions for Marie?
Well, just, you want to talk about the school districts, how they're doing with what's their status at the moment, and how are they doing with the pandemic?
Sure. Yeah. So our districts, I mean, I really appreciate the fact that we have 8 districts that are genuinely interested in doing everything they can to keep kids in school, and a recognition that that is the best place for students. At this point in time, we have Amanda Clear Creek and Vern Union that are, Amanda Clear Creek, Vern Union, Bloom Terrell, and Fairfield Union, who are all in 5 days a week, with some adjustments to the schedule, depending on the district, to allow for teachers to have time to work with kiddos whose parents have selected a 100% virtual option. The rest of the districts are hybrid, as is the Career Center still. But in addition to that, we have found that districts are beginning to take our lead in terms of personalizing intervention plans for kids with disabilities, so that despite what the modality is of the district, to the greatest extent possible, if we don't have data that shows that the kiddos with disabilities are making progress, we're making arrangements for them to come in to provide individualized services. So, you know, we're fortunate that we have that in this county. There's some districts that kids have not set a foot in the district. And so the governors, you keep hearing the governor talk about this agreement for districts to sign off, that they will get access to vaccine doses earlier if they commit to being open March 1. We were already there. We had already met the governor's criteria. We did all sign off on it, of course. But that was really targeted to a handful of districts in the state. And hopefully with the decline, we are seeing this week a decline in the number of COVID cases. and the need for people to be quarantined on our staff. I think we only have, what do we have, Laura, 2 people this week? We have 1 or 2 that are still quarantined this week. Something like that. I don't know if she's
I don't know,
muted.
Laura.
She's muted. Anyway, there's been a huge decline.
Are you out there, Laura?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted.
So I was just saying that we're experiencing a decline in the number of new COVID cases. And that helps us with staffing.
Yes.
Does that answer your question, Charlotte?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for Marie? Next item's Eastland Fairfield.
You wanna go first?
I'll let you go first.
Same officers as last year. Bill still president, Leah still vice president. There's 1 new member from the Central Valley ESC. I'll rely on Mary for his name.
Oh. He was, wait a minute. I know him from someplace. Anyway, he was the attorney in the DeWolfa case. He was the attorney for Cleveland City Schools when they had to change the way of their operation. He lives in New Albany. I can't think of his name. I couldn't tell
Is there
you.
a board member?
He's a new board member at New Albany, and he was one they selected to be, see, since we only have 2, they have 3 now from ESC.
Right.
And I can't think of his name. I can see him in my mind, but I'm sorry.
Hybrid model is not working according to the new superintendent. At least 280 students were failing. The hope is somewhere in March to go back to in-class. The current 1 week off, 1 week on is not effective. It may be 2 in, 3 in, something of that.
We talked about that last Friday.
And one area that she mentioned that I don't know how it affects our services with our member districts, but she's really going to push to bring in, I believe, special ed type students into the career centers. And whether we have any oversight on that or how that plays out. It's like a blanket statement. I was like, oh, I believe there's.
No, we're working collaboratively, so that's a real need. And it's a good thing, and we've already extended the offer to help with that because that is not an area that they've done a great job with. So we are interested to come to the table and try to blend and braid resources and services for students. So that's all positive. Good.
The only other thing was that she brought up, she's about 15 individuals that she feels the district needs. A couple people are people we've had that we no longer have for whatever reason. And of course, that kind of raised eyes, as Ron and I've talked about, because that was quite an expense to bring on all these people at one time. But she is going to push on the communications thing. She's going to have a company as well as an individual. So that kind of was the only thing that was really settled from that particular thing.
And we should see a very significant influx of tax revenue. We won't know until like the March meeting or so,
March
from the treasurer, but it's.
Dawn said what's projected.
Good, yeah, the tax projections are actually really good in the state.
But like I said in a conversation here a little bit ago, in 2008, we went through a real downturn with that whole thing, so we've got to be careful about that.
Well, you can't, 1 year does not make a trend.
Right.
So that's the challenge there. We also have pulled Kim into the conversations we're having. I made a brief introduction to the grant that we're working on. We pulled for industry credentials, the $150,000 grant. We have a meeting again today in the afternoon. Kim has been willing to come to the table, and we are looking at those kids who are either off track in terms of finishing a credential or need some additional extended school year services, and potentially if we can get funding to help support them finishing. So we've got the Workforce Development Center, school districts, Lancaster's Comprehensive School, and the Career Center coming to the table to look at trying to create that support. So, yeah, we've got to get those kids through, one way or the other.
I haven't been Greg Spencer.
Greg, his health hasn't been good, so he didn't rerun for a position to be on the board, and he's,
I knew they replaced him in,
yeah,
the ESC.
yeah,
Wondered about that.
yeah, his health hasn't been good.
Huh, for a long time. Anything else on Eastland Fairfield? Okay. Any additional reports, questions, comments? Charlotte, anything?
Should have asked this before. Okay, what's the last time I actually saw you? Is when we were at the old Lancaster Middle School that they're leaving. Where does it stand with Forest Rose, or have they made any decisions, or is that, of course, the pandemic totally upended everything.
So we're working with Bloom Carroll Schools to repurpose the Lycopolis building for Prep for Success to move there in the fall. We currently have Prep for Success right now. They did allow us to stay, and we're still operating Prep for Success, and we have a plan for the transition to the Lycopolis building as Bloom Carroll moves into their new elementary building. So we've got a plan.
Okay.
Christopher Lopez
That's it.
is the name of the new one.
Chris, related to Jennifer, or?
I don't know if he's related to Jennifer, but he was the lawyer in both those cases.
Anything else, Charlotte?
Thank you.
I guess, is it, I shouldn't ask. Oh, so the Lithopolis building, we're not having to buy it or rent it or upgrade it or anything?
No, we're not. It's a win-win because Bloom Carroll currently did not include in their plan for the new elementary building preschool classrooms. So we'll also move the Bloom Carroll preschool classrooms into that Lycopolis building as well. So Prep for Success and Bloom Carroll preschool will be in that building, and we at the ESC will operate everything inside the walls, and Bloom Carroll will continue to maintain and manage the building. It'll remain their property. It's a good win-win. It's a good plan.
Okay. You're good at that.
I tried.
Dawn, anything? Mary?
Well, let's see, 2 years ago, Kim Miller-Smith, our central Ohio person for school board, asked me to be on the Ohio Athletic Council. And so I was on for 2 years. We only had one meeting, so that was not too bad. And that was just to get the new director of the Ohio High School Athletic Association. So my time was up, so I thought, well, good, I don't have to, I don't have to worry about that. Well, now I'm on something else, because Kim called after she had already told Richard Lewis I was going to be on a advisory board for him, and then I got a letter from him. Well, I got a letter from him, and then she called and told me she told him. So now I'm on that, and I'm on that for 2 years, so we'll see how that goes. But if it's no more meetings than the last one, I'm okay.
Great committees are
Yeah.
ones that don't meet often.
Yeah, I mean, I got the letter from Rick saying that I was finished with my time, and they thanked me for all I'd done. I thought, oh, I went to one meeting to approve one. So
Anything else?
I'll try to represent us well.
I'm sure you will.
I thank you all for, again, another good meeting, and covered a lot, dealt with a lot, and appreciate that. I need a motion and a second to adjourn.
On behalf of Gary, so moved.
Second.
All right. Mr. Fowler made the motion on behalf of Mr. Bartlett, and Ms. Pierce, seconded.
I did it on behalf of Ron.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bartlett's absent. Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Miss Owens?
Yes.
Miss Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Steven?
Yes. Thank you.
And I'll be on Zoom next month.
Enjoy the warm weather.
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you what, that you were talking about the vacant vaccine, and you know, Florida. My sister